So, I was committed, and then about a month ago, my phone rang. It was Joe Kleiman calling me, and he offered me up. And, Coach Kleiman called me in the next couple of days, and the connection was good. So I decided I talked to my parents. And obviously, there were some other schools that came in and offered me too, especially like once I announced my decommitment, I got a couple calls too. But my parents, we took a step back and realized that my parents really wanted me to have a school to compare to since I committed so early. I haven't really looked at that many schools. So they just wanted me to, not regret the decision because you only go through it once in high school.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Hello and welcome to the Verbal Commitment Podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network, brought to you by Home Field Apparel. I'm Kevin Flaherty. I'm here with Ryan Wallace, as always, from GoPowerCat.com and 24/7 Sports to talk about the world of local recruiting, Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. If you want to know what our podcast is about, Ryan, our first episode saw us talk to the quarterback commit at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. And our second was a breakdown of the players at the always popular Mill Valley 7-on-7. So those should give you guys a pretty good idea what we're going to be cooking here on a regular basis, talking to recruits so that you guys can get to know them and hear their stories, and also analyzing their games so that you know what your team has a chance of getting when they pick your school. Today, we will have Kansas State safety commitment Logan Bartley on, so stay tuned for that. And as always, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe, hit that like button, leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I mean, football is here, Kevin. It's
oh yeah.
You've been out at some KU practices. K-State is underway, and it's like that time of year when you're starting to kind of, put together a tentative high school calendar,
Sure.
Games on Friday nights and that kind of stuff. So, when the calendar starts to hit August, it starts to get real. You got to get all your ducks in a row.
Yeah, it's camp season for us too, and I think over the next month we'll probably get out and hit a few high schools and talk to some coaches and get a little bit more information that way. And we will get to Bartley in that interview here in a little bit. He's actually one of 2 safeties to announce for K-State over the last week. But before we get there, let's talk about the other 2 classes. By that, I mean Kansas and Missouri. It's a little bit of a slow period for Kansas right now. The Jayhawks have 30 seniors on this year's roster, Ryan. So when you have all of that, you're going to hit the transfer portal when those guys go
right.
to replace a lot of that experience. And so I think things have slowed down a little bit. And that's why I like some of their swings on guys with traits, right? Because you're going to probably replace that experience. You can afford to go after guys that, hey, may take a couple years, to get to where they need to go. We've talked about Juju Marks on the show and kind of his potential and the traits there and everything. But a guy that I'd like to kind of touch on today is defensive end commitment Adrian Hawley, because, Ryan, I think he's a guy that has some really nice traits that Kansas can build around in that defensive end.
Kid out of Michigan. So first off, Kevin, kind of off topic, but on topic, is there a state that KU hasn't gone in and managed to pull someone from? I mean, I know they've had some success in Michigan before, but yeah, it seems like the Jayhawk staff they've got connections everywhere. So that caught my attention right away. But, Adrian Hawley, it's funny when I went back, I needed a refresher on him since our first episode when we were kind of breaking down the class. And obviously that, you're a pretty good player when you can afford to have a punt block as your opening play on your highlight reel and have it, and have it still be impressive, right?
Yeah.
And, with his length, watching him just basically hurdle 3 guys and still, manage to get an arm, not even a fingertip, the whole forearm, right, is on the ball. Impressive guy. Reminds me a little bit, and I mean, this is lofty praise here, and maybe it's further down the road in terms of his physical development, but you have to think KU staff sees him as an Austin Booker-like clone, or at least was pitching him on the idea of, this is a guy that we had recently. Look at what we did with him and all of his kind of length and athleticism and also the versatility, right? Because you watch Adrian Hawley, He can be at 5 tech, but he can go into 4I. He can slide out, to like a 7 tech, that kind of hybrid outside linebacker, and stand up off the edge. To me, I see a lot of similarities, at least knowing that Austin Booker is fresh on the mind of maybe a long-term type guy. And again, that's lofty. I'm not saying Adrian Hawley is Austin Booker athletic.
Sure. Austin Booker, to your point, was a guy that it took him a little while, right? He didn't play at Minnesota initially, kind of found his footing at Kansas this past year.
Sure. And again, another kind of Midwest guy, Booker from Indiana, Hawley from Michigan. I see some similarities there, Kevin, but I'm curious to hear from you in terms of, I think he's a fit for their defensive scheme, but how long is it going to take him to get involved in that scheme?
He's kind of a baby deer, in terms of when you watch him play, and I love the expression, he doesn't know what he doesn't know yet.
Love that. Yeah.
I think that when you watch him play, you can see the rawness, but you have the starter kit that you want, right? He's 6'6". He's got a better than 6'10" wingspan, according to friend of the show, Michael Swain over at Fog.net. And when you look at the traits and things that he has, Ryan, we've talked about Kansas's defensive end recruiting, what they've been able to do in the portal with guys like Dylan Brooks, a couple years ago, with a guy like Joe B, in this past class, and then Garrett Martin, who's a guy that's more ready to play, probably quicker. I think they can afford to bring him along and have him be a high potential guy that can continue to develop in that program. And speaking of edge guys with traits, let's flip to Missouri's class real quick. Currently ranked number 15 in the nation on 24/7 Sports. And while Missouri has other guys that are higher rated than Dayton Hopkins out of Herman, Missouri.
Hey, wine country.
He's a 4-star with a lot of potential. He's Missouri's 5th ranked commit, but he's also 24/7 Sports' number 2 player in the state of Missouri. Ryan, this is a guy drew attention from all the local schools. Iowa State, K-State, KU all offered. Penn State comes flying in with one of their Midwest offers that you see from them. Ultimately, Missouri keeps a really talented player home.
Yeah, and I had done some research early on Dayton because, again, as you mentioned, K-State, one of his offers. K-State, thought they might be able to get him on an official visit, and then Missouri wound up locking him down quickly and early before K-State even had their chance to rebuttal. And honestly, this was a good take for Missouri in the sense that, I think Eli Drinkowitz and his staff get a lot of kudos for what they've done with the primetime players, right? The Williams Winery and those types, getting Luther Burden to stay home. They get a lot of attention for those. And yet it seems like some of these types, the Dayton Hopkins, might go overlooked. And you might think, well, they can swing. They're swinging for bigger fish than Dayton Hopkins. And I think if you were to say that right off the cuff, you're not giving Dayton Hopkins upside enough credit.
Sure.
And I think that's where Coach Drink and that staff said, no, this is absolutely a guy that even, again, kind of similar to Adrian Hawley, even if he's not Williams Winery ready, even if he's not day one, this is a guy that we feel like we can get the most out of, and he's a home state guy. Let's keep him home. Kevin, when I watch him, and you think about pairing him opposite Williams Winery down the road, who, again, Williams 6'6", 257, Dayton a lot thinner than that. And I think he's got plenty of room to develop, but he's not nearly where he won't come on campus where Williams is. And granted, Williams Winery was like a top 3 player in the nation, so that's why. But, the question is, can he bend? Can he play a little bit lower? And I think sometimes if you watch what he does as a tight end, you see a little bit of that bend and that agility. Again, it's a Kansas City show here. There's a little bit of Aldon Smith there.
Yeah, I would.
And again, I don't want to, I'm not saying he's the next Aldon Smith, but when you think about Aldon, when he came out in 2007, 2008 out of Raytown High School, 6'6", 215, like soaking wet, probably dare I say, a little bit better athlete maybe than Dayton Hopkins, although I think Dayton can do a little bit of that on the basketball court, but maybe not what Aldon was doing. But that's kind of who I see in terms of if you're a Tigers fan out there and you're thinking, what can Dayton Hopkins, what's the ceiling for him? For me, Kevin, it's kind of an Aldon Smith light.
Yeah, I think when you look at these prospects the way that we do, people are going to hear the end name and they're going to hear NFL guy. You're saying he's going to be an NFL guy, but we're comparing them at similar stages in their career. Where was this guy at coming out of high school? And there are a lot of factors that detail whether or not you can reach your upside. You and I have talked, probably about 80 billion times about recruiting rankings and how we feel that not only should it reflect your ceiling, but also your likelihood to reach that ceiling. This is a guy that I think, you brought up the Holly block on the punt, which is fun because he blocks it pretty much at the up back, with his length. Some of Hopkins, some of those blocks on the basketball court are just as fun that you see from him being a bouncy guy. And I think that's where you really see a lot of the fluidity show up, maybe even more than on the football field.
I agree.
I think he's a guy that if you liked as a football prospect and you were a football coach and then you watched him play basketball, that would cement your opinion of him as, okay, this is a dude.
Right. And again, I think the late flurry that you talked about with his attention goes to show the upside, right? Yeah. But I think it also is a testament to his floor, because again, I think, we at 24/7 would not have him rated as highly as we do in the state of Missouri, which has proven itself to be a lot better, similar to Kansas, a lot better maybe of a recruiting state than it once maybe was thought of outside of St. Louis. And so again, I think you're looking at floor and ceiling, and you got to like Dayton Hopkins and getting him, and also the versatility again with Missouri and what they like to do, how multiple they've been over the years. And granted, they'll break in a new coordinator this year, but I would imagine they still want to be multiple. And Dayton Hopkins, another one of those guys that can allow you to be multiple and still leave him on the field once he's filled out.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think that's a good time to kind of pivot to Manhattan real quick. Like Kansas, things have quieted down a little bit for Missouri of late, with the Tigers pulling in their last commitment on July 10th. But with the heater that they have been on this summer, I don't think that's going to last for too long. Speaking of heaters, in Manhattan, Kansas State lands safeties Noah King and Logan Bartley. And Ryan, one of the things that is pretty apparent is that these are two very different guys. They both have safety next to their name.
Right.
They're two very different guys that I think there's a pretty clear vision for these guys being able to fit together in the secondary. They're not going to block each other. These are two guys that can play on the field at the same time.
Yeah, well, first off, like you said, kind of a rarity. We lead with Missouri and KU, who, like everybody else, haven't really had any commitments because, again, like almost everybody else in the country, everybody's gone into reval mode. They're reevaluating their board and kind of waiting for the portal and senior evaluations. And then you've got K-State. I'm still covering recruiting over here, Kevin. We're still talking 2025 commitments.
They didn't shut off the faucet for you.
They did not. They had some guys that they felt like they could lock down before their senior years got started. Went out and got it done here kind of in that late window of July. You've only got like 5-6 days where that recruiting window is open, and K-State made the most of it. Noah King out of Hamilton, Ohio, Hamilton High School. Another really long safety to go with Logan Bartley out of Naples, Florida. Two areas that, honestly, K-State hasn't really gone into that often. They've dipped into the Tampa region, but maybe not this area of South Florida and Ohio. That's been kind of untapped by Chris Kleiman's staff until Noah King. But you mentioned it, again, on paper, to an outsider, you would say two safeties? Like, how'd they land two guys to want to come in at the same time and play the same position? Well, it's because they're not actually going to play the same role. You look at Noah King, had a chance to see him at K-State's camp, their final elite camp of the summer, that last week of July, Kevin. And he, a bigger body, a guy that they want to play free safety. And I'll just be honest with you, Kevin, I don't think he was quite as fluid as he might show up on tape. Not as agile and mobile maybe for his frame as he tests. But I think K-State saw that and said, we can teach this kid how to move his hips a little bit better, how to get to coverage a little bit quicker and that sort of thing. You can't teach his length. You can't teach the tenacity that he has when he's coming downhill, that sort of stuff. We'll put him at a free safety, knowing that is a room that is very high with youth potential right now, and we can take some time with Noah King. Then you go and you get Logan Bartley, who we'll talk to here in a little bit, and I'll explain kind of how that came to be. But seeing him in person at that camp, he was a non-participant, but he was there as a guest. He is physically built like a linebacker, Kevin, yep. But a guy, when you watch his tape, that can do a little bit of everything, just ferocious on the football field, out of the defensive backfield. And he's a guy that they see fitting perfectly at what they call their jack safety. He's a center fielder. He's a great communicator. He can do everything, know the playbook front to back. And again, if you need him up near the line of scrimmage for run support, he can do that. If you need him playing center field and helping a guy like Noah King in coverage, he can do that too. So again, two really good gets at a time that you didn't expect Kansas State to get anybody, and from areas that they typically don't often get into, Kevin. So sneaky good, and two reasons why their class is now top 40 in the country heading into the fall.
Yeah, K-State did a pretty good job going south for a hybrid linebacker safety type in BJ Payne, who turned out pretty well. So I think this one's going to work out pretty well as well. We'll get to Kansas State commitment Logan Bartley here in a minute, but first, talk to us. I think Ryan would agree that one of the best things about recruiting is the discussion it builds, and we have a KCSN Mint Mobile hotline where you can text us your questions or comments, and we can read them or answer them on the show. So shoot us a message. It's really easy. It's easy to text over 913-407-6524, and let's talk. We also wanted to tell you about our friends at Home Field Apparel. Kickoff is almost here, and Home Field can get you geared up during Can't Miss Kickoff 2024, a month-long event that can get you outfitted with gear for your favorite school. Try out the football box, where you can get 3 never-before-seen items exclusive to your school, from things you can wear to the season opener to clothes that can help you stay warm once that Midwest winter starts rearing its head and peeking in November. So head to homefieldapparel.com, use the promo code linked below in the description, and you can get 15% off your first order. We'll be right back.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
With big cell phone providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were going to pay magically skyrockets. But with Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. So you can say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. And better yet, all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And if you're worried about keeping your own phone and your phone number, with Mint Mobile, you can keep your phone and your phone number and all of your existing contacts. So ditch overpriced wireless to the Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNVC. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNVC. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNVC. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Welcome back to the Verbal Commitment Podcast, brought to you by Home Field Apparel. We're here with Naples, Florida star Logan Bartley of First Baptist Academy, who announced his commitment to Kansas State on Wednesday. Logan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Congrats on the commitment. Logan, you were committed to Wake Forest before making the decision to switch to Kansas State. What was it about Kansas State that kind of encouraged you to make that switch?
I think overall Kansas State is a better program. And when I took my unofficial visit, I mean, everyone just loves football. Everyone's really passionate about the game. And I feel like I'm going to fit in well there and get developed. And overall, the scheme, I feel like fits me better compared to that Wake. And obviously the community, I mean, all the games are sold out, and, it's a college town, and I want to be in that environment.
Logan, I wanted to ask you about the community that you were talking about there. Coming from Naples, what was your expectation for Manhattan? And was there anything about the town or maybe the facilities or anything like that that you were kind of completely caught off guard, like in a good way? Like, wow.
It's a really clean town. That's something I took notice to. It's very clean and it's very calm, I would say. I don't know.
Do you like that? Do you like that change of pace? Were you looking for that?
I wouldn't say so necessarily. I didn't really care that much, but it's definitely a nice town. Like, I was surprised how nice it was for sure.
Logan, we talked a little bit just before we started about your tape and, the physicality that you show on tape. Do you play NCAA or college football 25, I guess, at all?
Yeah, I do.
What do you think your hit power should be in the video game?
Are we going off like high school stats?
Let's just go ahead and hear what you think.
Put me in that low 90s.
All right. Where does that physicality come from?
I just feel like I like to hit people and run through people.
Logan, I'm curious when we talk about K-State, and I want to get to your first commitment here in a minute. But speaking of the new commitment with K-State, how did they come on your radar? I know that they recruit Florida a little bit, but your area, your part of Naples, is not an area that they normally get into. Walk us through kind of when that relationship started and how it progressed to the point of you making that unofficial visit kind of quietly as a Wake Forest commit.
Mm-hmm. So, I was committed, and then about a month ago, my phone rang. It was Joe Klanderman calling me, and he offered me up, and Coach Kleiman called me in the next couple of days, and the connection was good. So I decided I talked to my parents, and obviously there were some other schools that came in and offered me too. Especially like once I announced my decommitment, I got a couple calls too. But my parents, we took a step back and realized that my parents really wanted me to have a school to compare to since I committed so early. I haven't really looked at that many schools, so they just wanted me to, not regret the decision because you only go through it once in high school.
You play a lot of different roles. You play a lot of different roles at your high school. When you talk to Coach Klanderman, where did he see you fitting into the defense? Like, how did he describe your role to you?
He wants me to play the jack safety.
Yeah, and what all for those who who don't know, what all does that entail, and how do you see yourself filling that role?
It's basically the middle field safety, and you do everything. I mean, you're ever around the field, everything gets funneled to you. You're there to make the play, and that's everything I want in my position.
I was going to say, Logan, with your unofficial visit, is that was something you kind of wanted to keep under wraps, right?
Not necessarily. I told Wake that I was going because that's that relationship I have with them, and I told them I was going, so it wasn't that big of a concern to me.
What were some of the other schools? You mentioned that there were some schools that were kind of trying to get in on you after you committed to Wake. Some in the off season, some here, within the last several days. Who were some of the schools that were kind of trying to get in on you before K-State locked you down?
As of, I would say the month, Illinois, Minnesota, UVA, and trying to think. There was a couple others, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
When you look at Kansas State's defense, are there core traits or anything that you really identify with that you say, hey, I could see myself playing that way? Because it seems like for those of us who watch your tape and watch K-State, it seems kind of like a hand-in-glove type of fit.
Yeah. They play fast and physical, and that's really all what I'd want them out of my game after.
Logan, I mentioned earlier about you being Wake Forest's, I think, first commitment of the class, right? But I wanted to go back even before you committed there. You had some early interest from like Kentucky. You were going to Clemson for camps. Ole Miss came and offered. Louisville was there. Miami. I mean, there was a list of some blue chip type schools. I guess what compelled you at first to go the Wake Forest route? And do you feel like, had it not been for, I think you said, a late season injury, do you feel like your recruitment could have taken off even beyond the Wake Forest level?
Yes, I do definitely feel that. And The reason I picked Wake Forest was because the connection I had made with the position coach over there, Coach James Adams. He's an amazing guy, and I really liked him a lot, so that's why I committed so early. Also, the fact that I had my injury, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to play spring ball, and that's a big thing in recruiting. So I decided to commit early. But I got cleared like a day before our spring practice started, so I ended up playing the whole spring.
How'd you do in the spring?
Sorry, what?
Sorry, how'd you do in the spring? You said you got cleared right before it started.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man, I did good. I was excited to go. I got good news and just got back at it.
What was your injury, Logan, for those that aren't aware?
I had a bony Bankar surgery, which is basically I had torn my left labrum, basically like 80%, and the piece of your labrum that connects like the bone piece, I also broke that off like about mid-season. But I had waited to get it checked out because I didn't want nobody to sit me. I wanted to play the rest of my season. So I got an MRI in like mid-December, and I had that news. I had to get surgery.
So just to follow up, these clips where you're hitting guys, halfway to Kentucky, some of those are with your shoulder being, pretty messed up with the bone and everything.
That first hit on my highlight tape was with my bad shoulder.
Oh, wow. That was a savage hit too.
Hey, Logan, we're catching you here right after one of your practices. Coming from, obviously we were talking at the beginning of the show about how it's camp season, right? As a player at First Baptist Academy, what's kind of the best and worst part of kind of your last fall camp?
Yeah, it's bittersweet because, me personally, I've been at my school since first grade. We're a private school, but we still play all the bigger schools in our area. And I've grown up with like probably half the team since first grade. So I'm really excited to get on the field with them, but yeah, it's sad that it's coming to an end. But I'm ready to, get my career going in college for sure.
What kind of goals do you have set aside for your senior year, both team and individual this year?
I want to definitely develop my leadership skills, and I want to win.
And how soon can K-State fans maybe expect you back? Because going up and seeing camp and maybe seeing the town in the summer is a little different than game day. Has the staff talked to you about maybe an official?
I'm coming up for the Arizona game, I believe, for an official visit.
That's not a bad Friday night, Kevin.
That's not.
Logan, what do you think of Kansas State in this new Big 12? Coming as a kid from Florida, obviously you might have a chance to play a game in Orlando against UCF, but are you excited about being a participant in this conference that stretches coast to coast?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to be able to see a bunch of different teams from all areas of the country.
Well, Kevin, should we fire off some rapid fire here?
I think it's rapid fire time. Are you ready, Logan?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. You were talking about how you still play some of the big boys down there in Florida. Who is maybe the most high-profile player that you've ever faced, or maybe the toughest guy you've ever had to cover one-on-one?
Actually, on my own team, I got the best receivers in our area on my team. Last year, we had Winston Watkins. He was on my team at First Baptist. Olsen Pat Henry, he's a 4-star that went to Clemson in class of 23.
Right.
4-star Jaden Petit, he's a class of 26 guy. He's 6'4". K-State should really get on his radar. They should offer him a.
All right. Got some recruiting advice.
I got another 4-star. He's in my class. Bradley Martino. He's committed to Minnesota. So I say I got the best talent in my backyard.
Logan Bartley coming for Taylor Bratt's job here. Look out, folks. Okay, here we go. Favorite part about living in South Florida?
Weather.
That's what you'll miss most. Okay, so what's the least favorite part about living and growing up in South Florida?
In Naples, we have a thing called seasons, so all the snowbirds come down, and it gets really busy for like 4 months.
You got the folks like Kevin and I that are just coming down there invading your space.
I'm trying to go to the beach, and there's no space at all.
Okay, how about this? I know you're a Wildcat now, but if you had to pick Canes, Gators, Knowles, or other.
I didn't really watch college football too much. I was always an NFL guy. I'm a Denver Broncos fan. I didn't start watching college football until last year when my recruitment started to take off. So I really never had a college team.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, this wasn't on my list, but how and why did you become a Denver Broncos fan?
It was Tim Tebow's last year, and I was just kind of watching TV. And I was like, "Oh, what's that orange team?" And I just like that. Then Peyton Manning came in. We won the Super Bowl 50, and after that, it's been rough. But,
yeah. Hey, you hopped on the bandwagon at the right time, though.
Yeah, now going through it.
Two more for you, Logan. If you're not playing football, what can K-State fans kind of expect you to be doing? Where are you spending your time?
Definitely being around the community. I want to give back as much as I can, and you'll see me at all the fundraisers or whatever.
Awesome. And then, it's Olympic season here. So what's the one sport that, you can't turn off, or maybe there's an event that you feel like you'd like to see live or even compete in? What's kind of your Olympic go-to? What's it been these last weeks, or a week and a half?
Yeah, USA basketball for sure. I mean, this team is crazy to me. And to see that all come together, since, people kind of lost pride in, playing the Olympics, at least for basketball, for a bit. And now they've all come together and try to make it happen this year.
Who's your favorite player? Yeah.
Yeah.
Either Ant or LeBron.
All right. I love watching Ant play. I love the energy that he plays with it and everything else. He's a blast for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Logan, so much for joining us, and thanks to all of you for watching and listening to the Verbal Commitment Podcast on Kansas City Sports Network. If you like what you've seen or heard, leave us a like, subscribe, or hit us with a 5-star rating. And until next time, take care.